In a past life, my best friend adopted the smartest kid from the orphanage, while I took in the most beautiful little girl. She believed knowledge could change fate. But that smart boy, despite his intelligence, was weirdly aloof and had autism. After failing his college entrance exams, he refused to try again and ended up burning down her family home. The girl I adopted was super talented and became a hotshot celebrity as soon as she turned 18, making loads of money. People said I had adopted a gold mine. After my friend escaped the fire, she ended up killing me out of hatred. The next time I opened my eyes, I found myself back on the day we went to adopt the kids at the orphanage. This time, my friend beat me to it and chose that pretty little girl from the crowd. Clara, I'm not trying to blame you, but I just want a taste of the good life. I never expected that the same night she adopted Lily, the little girl knocked on my door. Auntie, do you want a daughter? Wow, turns out both kids had also come back to life. When Clara, my friend, picked the most beautiful little girl in the crowd first, I realized she had also been reincarnated. There were about a dozen kids playing on the orphanage's lawn. Clara's family and I were following the director, standing on the second-floor balcony, choosing which child we wanted to adopt. Clara and I grew up together, went to the same school, got married the same year, and both found out we couldn't have kids. Even the orphanage we came to adopt from was the same. Clara's husband joked, "You two are like peas in a pod." I stayed quiet, catching Clara rolling her eyes at us. I used to think Clara and I were inseparable. Even when she stabbed me in anger, I couldn't believe it. Someone I saw as family had become monstrous. She said, "Becky, why do you get all the luck? You've always had better grades, a better family, a better boyfriend. And even when I found out I couldn't have kids, I made you miscarry by spiking your medicine. Yet in the end your adopted child was the successful one." I finally realized she never saw me as a friend, only an enemy. Even my infertility was her doing. In this new life, she immediately pointed at the little girl Lily, standing under the tree. "I want to adopt her," Clara said. The director looked surprised, given what Clara's family had originally said about choosing smart kids. They always preached how knowledge changes fate. Why the sudden change? Lily's file had already been sent to my house, and everyone thought we'd adopt her. Clara's family seemed set on taking the high IQ boy Ken, who could solve a Rubik's Cube in 5 seconds. Sensing something off, Clara glanced at me, her eyes full of certainty. "Becky, you haven't signed an adoption agreement yet, so it's fine if I take Lily, right?" My husband knew I had a soft spot for Lily, especially since the child I miscarried was going to be a girl. He wanted to argue back for Lily, but I stopped him. I shrugged, "No problem. If you like Lily, you should bring her home." Clara seemed suspicious at how easily I backed down, but quickly went with the director to sign the adoption papers. On her way across the lawn, she picked up Lily, clearly thrilled. "Lily, I'm your mom now. I'll make sure you cultivate all your talents." She beamed. I watched her walk off with Lily. I sighed quietly, but when I looked up, I saw Lily watching me too. I'd always wanted to adopt Lily, but seeing her taken away now, she probably thought I didn't want her anymore. But I knew there was no way I could win over Clara. So amid her excitement, I walked over to Ken, hiding in a corner watching the sun. And just like that, the choices were made. Clara and I took home different kids than we had in our past lives. Once home, my husband was still grumbling. Clara used to say she wanted a smart kid to nurture into something great, maybe even study abroad. When did she change her mind to picking a pretty face like Lily? He didn't get it, but I knew. In the past life, Clara adopted Ken, believing knowledge was everything. Her family pinned all their hopes on him. They sold their house and took huge loans to buy in a good school district, just to get him into the best high school. Ken was smart too, constantly topping his class. But Clara was never satisfied. I once saw her wailing on Ken with a feather duster at her house. Being first in class isn't enough. You still ranked second in school, and weren't even top 10 in the district. She yelled, "Even if you become the province's top scorer, there are 34 of those a year in the whole country." Ken hung his head, fiddling with the Rubik's Cube, taking each hit in silence. Once she tired of shouting and hitting, Clara sunk into the sofa, looking at the speechless Ken. "I know you're clever, Ken. You can do it. Keep pushing, okay? She said. I thought Ken was being overwhelmed, so I tried to chime in. Ken's already so bright. Maybe ease up a little? Before I could finish, Clara interrupted. It's easy for you to say. Your Lily might be all about talent, but her grades are terrible. Are you really going to talk about us? In my past life, I was too naive to catch the sarcasm in her voice. I thought she was earnestly trying to remind me of Lily's academic decline. When I got home, I dug up Lily's math exercises and studied with her until midnight. Clara pinned all her hopes on Ken, but seemed to approach it all wrong. I often took Lily to their house to play. Lily and Ken got along well. Ken, who usually wouldn't talk to anyone, only smiled at Lily. But Clara thought Lily was just average. She forbade Ken from hanging out with Lily, and even burned the photos of them together, tossing out the gifts Lily gave him. In the end, maybe the pressure from Clara was too much, worsening Ken's autism. During his first college entrance exam, he had a breakdown and handed in a blank paper for his language test. Ken got taken to the hospital's psychiatric ward and was diagnosed. Clara rushed over, slapped Ken, accusing him of faking illness to hide his fear of failure. She refused to get Ken treatment and forced him to repeat a grade. On a stormy day, she made him kneel in the courtyard, admitting fault, pushing Ken to the brink until he set the house on fire. He doused himself in gasoline, resulting in both Ken and Clara's demise. Meanwhile, I adopted Lily and kept a hands-off approach. She liked something, I supported it. She didn't, we wouldn't push it. So even though Lily's grades weren't great, her talent stood out. At 16, she was spotted by a talent scout and cast as the young lead in a high-profile film. With some cultural studies catch-up, she aced her way into film school. Lily quickly entered the limelight, performing in a hit series at 18, becoming a sought-after starlet. Truly, Lily was an angelic little girl. My husband and I originally wanted to adopt Lily, so everything was prepared in pink presents a room. My husband, a bit awkward, said, Ken, why don't you watch some TV in the living room first? Dad will get your room ready. On our way back, I've ordered some stuff for boys. It'll be here soon. Ken stayed quiet as always. I feared he might overthink, so I quickly explained. Even though we first wanted to adopt Lily, now that you're here, I'll treat you as my own child. You won't lack love. Worried he might misunderstand, I was surprised when Ken went into the room, touched the pink, strawberry-patterned sheets, and turned back with a stiff smile. No need, I like it. My husband and I exchanged a glance. The director had warned us that Ken had autism, and we were prepared, yet Ken was more mature than expected. Once the new stuff arrived, my husband switched up the room decor. I took Ken to the study to talk. Seeing how Clara punished him in his past life, leaving him bruised and battered, my heart ached. Though I knew he had started the fire in his past life, I truly believed kids are like blank slates. It's all about how their parents guide them. Cautiously, I stroked his head. Ken, the director told me you're a smart kid, but I'm not that brilliant a mom, so I can't teach you much. Still, as long as you're happy and not breaking the law, I'll support whatever you choose to do. Ken, only 6, was smaller than his peers with strikingly bright eyes. He looked up at me, and perhaps it was my imagination, but his eyes seemed a bit teary. He nodded just as my husband called for him to check out his room. I said, go ahead. As Ken reached the study's door, he stopped and looked back at me. Auntie, I'm happy you picked me to be your child. My heart skipped a beat. Ken used to call me Auntie in his past life too. Hearing it now, I suddenly wondered if Ken had reincarnated as well. But I quickly shook my head. How could 3 people have been reborn? After settling Ken in, my husband and I got ready to sleep. Resting in bed, my thoughts drifted back to Lily. Honey, what if I told you I don't just want to adopt Ken, but Lily too? Think you could help with that? He looked at me puzzled. Planning to snatch your friend's kid? Something like that. Suddenly the doorbell rang. My husband went to answer it. In bed I overheard him. Lily, what are you doing here? Did you come by yourself? It's so late. Lily. I swiftly got out of bed and ran to the door barefoot. Sure enough, little Lily stood at our doorway. Her eyes lit up on seeing me, but she quickly looked away, a bit hesitant. Uncle, Auntie, I need to talk to Ken. Could you let me in? My husband and I found it strange, Our house was a good 4 or 5 miles from Clara's. How had a 6-year-old Lily gotten here alone at such an hour? Still puzzled, we let Lily into Ken's room. Once inside, she tried to close the door and said, "Auntie, I want to talk to Ken privately." Private chat? I wanted to know too. So, I nudged my husband to go to bed while I eavesdropped by the door. What could these kids be whispering about? I heard Ken say, "What brought you here?" Lily replied, "I waited until everyone at home was asleep, slipped out, caught a cab, and almost got taken to the police." Then Ken said, "You should have waited for me to come to you. It's risky for a girl like you." Lily continued, "You come to me? At her house? You might not care, but I do. Now I get why you set fire to her house in your last life. It's suffocating." Today, as soon as I arrived, she kept going on and on about how, "Lily, you must master your talents to earn me big bucks in the future. I get your situation, and I'll find a way to get you out of there. Rebirth Alliance. This time, I'm definitely taking the bad guys down. I used to be doubtful, but now I'm sure. Ken and Lily have been reborn too." I couldn't hold it in, and just burst into the room. Lily and Ken, who were chatting away, froze when they saw me. I quietly shut the door behind me, lowering my voice in excitement. "Kids, count me in the Rebirth Alliance. Mama's been reborn too." According to Ken and Lily, they were reborn and recognized each other a few days ago, even before we visited the orphanage and started planning. They didn't expect Clara and me to be reborn too. Their original plan was for both of them to be adopted by me. But then Clara was reborn as well, and took Lily away right off the bat. At this, Lily's big, watery eyes turned red. The little girl leaned into my arms. "Mama, I don't want to leave you. Clara is so vicious. She pushed Ken so hard in the last life, and she'll definitely drive me crazy in this one too." I hugged Lily tight. "Don't worry, Lily. Mama will bring you back." Lily and I bonded as mother and daughter in our past life, so we were incredibly close. As Lily and I embraced, out of the corner of my eye, I saw Ken awkwardly standing by, his little face filled with confusion. Without hesitation, I pulled him over into our hug. Ken squirmed a little, but eventually let me hug him tight. The three of us huddled in Ken's room, devised a plan, and by the middle of the night, Ken and I had snuck Lily back to Clara's place. Clara's house was kind of out there, but it was big with a spacious yard. It was in a small manor-style building. So in our past life, when Ken set it on fire, Clara had a chance to escape over the wall. Watching Lily make her way inside and turn on the lights on the second floor, I felt relieved and ready to head out. But then I noticed Ken wasn't moving, just staring hard at the house, fists clenched, knuckles white, even trembling a little if you looked closely. "Ken." I crouched down to his eye level. "What's going on?" Ken didn't answer right away. He just kept staring at that house. I realized what he was thinking and gently patted his head. "Ken, since we've been given a second chance, let's look forward and not dwell on the bad stuff." Finally, Ken snapped out of it and looked at me. I held out my hand. "Come on, let's go home. Soon enough, we'll bring Lily back too." Ken hesitated for a moment, but then reached for my hand. Ken and Lily are both 6 now, just the right age for first grade. Just like the last time, Clara and I sent the kids to the best elementary school. On registration day, as I was showing Ken around, I spotted Clara talking to some parents with Lily in tow from a distance. A bunch of parents surrounded Lily, singing her praises like it was nothing. "Oh, my Lily is even prettier than those child models on TV," one parent chimed. Clara was grinning ear to ear. "Oh, I'm planning to have her pursue that path. I've already signed her up for piano lessons, ballet, vocal training, and some etiquette classes. Cost me a pretty penny too." "My, you're sure investing heavily," another added. Clara patted Lily's head. "Don't worry. Lily will earn it all back and more." Ken and I exchanged a glance, sharing an eye roll. I couldn't help myself and shot back. "Seems like you're nurturing talents, but to me, it looks like you're just seeing dollar signs. Why all those classes for such a young kid? She's only 6. I raised my voice on purpose, catching everyone's attention, including Clara, who shot me a death stare. "What did you just say, Becky?" Clara hissed. "Sounds like you're just jealous that I got Lily, such an obedient kid. Look at the one you took in. Always brooding like everyone owes him something. Mark my words, He'll be the ruin of your family. That rubbed me the wrong way. I thought she was my best friend in the past life. But she backstabbed me, and even killed me. Remembering that pain still haunts me. Ken's expression shifted too. That did it for me. I was ready to throw down. You better watch your mouth, I snapped, hands on my hips ready to fight. I'm happy to have Ken. You think adopting Lily makes you all high and mighty? You're a vile woman, and anything you touch is doomed. I couldn't let it slide. One thing led to another. And before I knew it, I grabbed Clara by the hair and pulled her to the ground, tossing her around without a care. Ken joined in to help, but at 6 years old, he wasn't much of a muscle. He did what he could and bit Clara's wrist hard. I could tell Ken held grudges against Clara for a long time. He bit down like a fierce little pup, refusing to let go, making Clara scream in pain. Trying to gain ground, Clara called out for Lily to help. Lily responded, "Sure, Mama, coming to help." With a swift move, Lily rushed over and bit down on Clara's other wrist. What looked like a 2-on-2 turned out to be a 3-on-1, and poor Clara got quite the beat down. It took other parents calling the cops to break it up. Once at the station, I felt more than satisfied seeing Clara with a bloody nose and swollen wrists. Clara, clutching her wrist in pain, must have realized Lily bit her too. Her face changed on the spot, and in front of everyone, she turned on Lily. "How could you be such an idiot? I asked for your help, and you go and bite me." Lily looked all innocent, blinking her big, bright eyes at Clara. "Sorry, Mom. I saw how rough this wrist was and thought it was the wrist of a bad person. I didn't realize it was yours." Clara's face twisted in anger. I quickly hugged Ken, burying my face in his chest, trying hard not to laugh. Clara and I were basically brawling, both waiting for our husbands to bail us out. Our husbands finally showed up late, both shocked to find Clara and me fighting. To them, whom we haven't met in this life, we are still supposedly best friends. Before getting bailed out, I went to the bathroom, and Clara followed me. Making sure no one was around, she crossed her arms, looking determined. "You came back to life too, right? I was just suspicious at first, but now I'm sure. Otherwise, you wouldn't have turned on me so suddenly. Last time, you considered me your best friend until the end." I had just finished my business, washed my hands, and casually splashed water on her face. "So what? What are you trying to say?" Clara shrugged. "Becky, you can't be lucky every time. What I went through in the past life, you'll go through too. That kid Ken will end up ruining your life. I'm just being kind here, as you once treated me as a friend. You should drop Ken as soon as possible." I laughed. "Clara, not everyone is as self-serving as you." Clara still grinned. "Becky, in this do-over, I'll be the winner. If you dare block me, I won't hesitate to stab you to death like last time." Looking at her smug face, I couldn't hold back and got into another fight with her in the bathroom. The police who pulled us out were extremely frustrated. "Both of you are mothers. Fighting in front of your kids. Fighting at school is one thing, but at the police station too." I pulled out my phone and played a recording of Clara saying, "If you dare block me, I won't hesitate to stab you to death like last time." I had a feeling and hit record when she showed up next to me earlier. I had edited it to this useful bit while waiting. Playing it, I looked innocently at the officers. "Officer," she threatened me, and I was petrified, so I just pushed her. Clara's face turned green again, and when she tried to come at me, my husband and Ken stepped in front of me. Hiding behind my husband, I secretly gave her the finger. Clara was left for some serious talking to, while I grabbed Ken and headed home with my husband. Before we left, I sneakily held Lily's little hand and whispered, "Sweetheart, wait for Mom to take you home." Clara spotted me holding Lily from afar, slammed the table in anger. "Becky, stay away from our kid." Her shouting triggered my rebellious streak. I not only held Lily's little hand, I also gave her a playful peck on the cheek, making sure Clara could hear. "Wow, Lily, you smell so nice. How about coming home with Auntie?" Lily, raised by me for over a decade in the past life, knew exactly how to rile her up, responding sweetly, "Sure, Auntie, you smell nice too. Can I sleep with you tonight?" Clara rushed over to snatch up Lily. But even though I couldn't take Lily home, rattling Clara surely felt satisfying. My husband seemed to have many thoughts about my brawl with Clara. Once home, He settled Ken with a storybook and came back to the room to talk to me. Han, did you and Clara fall out over adopting Lily? Honestly, before I knew about Clara's nasty deeds, her competing over Lily wouldn't have bothered me. But she not only killed me once, she also secretly drugged me behind my back, causing a miscarriage and making me infertile. But telling my husband this now wouldn't help. I could only sigh and say, just stay out of it between her and me. Whenever you see them, keep your distance. Except for Lily, if you ever find her alone, just bring her back to piss off Wicked Witch Clara. That night, after my husband fell asleep, I snuck into Ken's room. Ken was already on a video call with Lily. When Lily left last time, I gave her a smartwatch so she could reach us anytime. So what should we do now? I can't stand it here anymore. Lily whimpered under her blanket, heart-aching for comfort. I felt so bad for her. At the police station today, I was so tempted to just take Lily away. But with the country cracking down harder on child trafficking, I couldn't risk putting myself behind bars before putting Clara there. Ken, with his sharp mind, having an 18-year-old soul in a 6-year-old body, asked me for parts and worked through the night. The next morning, heading to first grade, he handed me a small box. Inside, I found a beautiful music box and a doll. Ken said I modified it inside as a camera. It sends live video and audio to my computer. Today at school, I'll give it to Lily. This way, we can keep track of her situation. I couldn't help but exclaim, Ken, you're so smart. I spent all night searching for a small camera online, but they're too obvious. And here you go, making this overnight. Now not only can we keep tabs on Lily, but we can gather evidence. Knowing Clara's past behavior, she'll treat Lily as her cash cow again for sure. Thinking about the past life events, Ken went silent. I noticed he was feeling down. I patted his little head and said, don't worry. You and we're both going to protect Lily. Even though Lily looks 6 now, she's got the soul of an 18-year-old just like you. I believe she'll take care of herself too. Finally, Kim relaxed and nodded seriously. Yeah. Ken's music box for Lily was taken home by Lily. Clara saw her with the music box and a doll, and thought it was odd. But Lily quickly explained, a teacher at school thought I was cute and gave it to me. Clara was satisfied with this answer. She had started to enjoy the perks Lily's appearance brought. Lily placed the music box in the living room, and the doll in the bedroom. That way, she'd have 2 viewpoints to know everything Clara's family was up to. Clara had failed in her previous life. So in this one, she was more desperate to succeed through Lily. She filled Lily's schedule to the brim. Lily was forced into intense talent training, dragged out of bed at 5 a.m. for ballet, her fingers smacked with a bamboo ruler to correct her moves, reciting lines late into the night until she fell asleep. One morning, when she refused to get up to practice, Clara dumped a bucket of cold water on her bed. Even though Clara adopted Lily in this life, she'd seen the bond Lily and I had in the past. She hated me, and naturally she hated Lily too. So when Lily didn't obey, Clara would take out her anger on her. Clara pinched Lily's arm in front of the mirror, saying, "You're my kid now. You have to do what I say and follow the path I laid out. If you learn well, you'll make lots of money. Why can't you even do a backbend properly now?" Ken and I, monitoring from afar, felt our hearts clench. We wanted nothing more than to rush over and confront Clara. But turns out, Lily wasn't someone to be trifled with. She pushed Clara away, saying, "Mom, if you expect me to earn a lot of money in the future, you can't punish me physically. What if I get hurt? You dumped cold water on me in this freezing weather to wake up. I'm malnourished from the orphanage, and my health is weak. If I catch a cold and get a fever, I'd be useless, wouldn't I?" Clara took that to heart, but still woke Lily up at 5 a.m. for ballet. This time though, when Lily resisted, she held her temper. Sleep-deprived Lily nodded off in school. But thankfully, with her 18-year-old soul, she could always answer the teacher's questions correctly when called upon. Plus, Clara had told the teachers not to stress over Lily's grades, since she was going to be a big star. During our video chat in the evening, Lily couldn't hold back. She's honestly dumb as heck. If I become a star, and it comes out that I flunked in elementary school, who'd like a brainless celeb? Clara knows about my rebirth, and is naturally cautious around me. But she hasn't figured out that Ken and Lily are reborn too, which is to our advantage. I've told Lily over and over again to keep her rebirth a secret. Confident, Lily reassured me, "Don't worry, dear mom. I played the role of a clueless kid in many shows in my past life. I'm a pro at it." After hanging up with Lily, I turned to find Ken nose deep in a calculus book. I blinked and kindly advised, "It's late. If you don't understand, don't push yourself. You've got elementary school work tomorrow." To my surprise, he looked up and said, "But I do understand. Can't you?" I was silent for a moment, reluctantly admitting, "I'm not clueless. I just never studied calculus." Ken was silent too, likely shocked that as a 20-something adult, I'd never tackled calculus. I huffed. Not only didn't I learn calculus, I failed my math finals, and only passed thanks to my art scores. Ken let out an "oh" of understanding. No wonder Lily fumbled with math in her past life. I giggled angrily and snatched away his calculus book, placing it on the highest shelf in the closet. I bet he can't reach that with his height. I shut the door and stuck my tongue out. "That's what you get for calling me dumb. No books for you tonight, and no cookies either." I told Lily not to show her smarts around Clara, but I forgot to mention it to Ken. During a school test, he finished the first grade paper in 5 minutes and asked to leave early. Seeing his perfect scores, the teacher gave him second grade work, which he also completed in 5 minutes. The teacher, in disbelief, handed out third, fourth, fifth, and sixth grade tests. Ken breezed through each within minutes. In the end, with no other choice, the teacher gave him middle school tests too, which he nailed effortlessly. When the teacher called, I was doing yoga, worried it was about Ken getting into fights. But the teacher quickly clarified, "No, Ken's mom. Ken is just too smart. Could you please come to the school? I don't think we can teach Ken anything anymore." Being the mom of a genius for the first time was a bit disorienting. I dressed up, slipped on some heels, and headed to the school, only to be showered with praises in the office. Especially when the teacher said, "You must be smart to have such a clever child." I couldn't help but grin. After school, I picked Ken up from first grade. Teachers came up saying, "You're Ken's mom? He's brilliant." I feigned humility. "He's not that smart, just kind of smart." Ken was silent behind me, but as Lily passed by, she sneaked a punch and whispered, "Don't you get carried away, acting like a genius's mom." "Mom, stop showing off. It wasn't you who taught Ken. You taught me, the one who scored 8 out of 100 in high school math. Just zip it." Clara heard about Ken being called a genius by his teacher when she came to pick up Lily. Passing by me, she didn't forget to look me and Ken up and down, and then mock. "What's the point of being smart if he's just an ungrateful kid? Watch him bleed your family dry someday." I squatted down to tidy up Ken's collar and whispered to him so only he could hear, "Ken, here's a reward from Mom. Go bump your head into her stomach, vent some anger." Ken gave a nod, turned around, and rammed into Clara's stomach. Caught off guard, Clara fell to the ground. When a crowd gathered, Ken shouted, "Why do you call me an ungrateful kid?" The principal even knew Ken could solve middle school test papers. Even though this was the best elementary school in town, a 6-year-old genius who could ace middle school tests was a once-in-a-century find. Now with Ken in an argument with Clara, naturally, the teachers sided with Ken. I also joined the crowd just in time to hold Ken back. "Clara, you can't just take your grudge against me out on a kid. He's only 6, and you call him ungrateful. Is he your kid for you to scold him like that?" The other parents around also criticized her. Clara, embarrassed and angry, dragged Lily away. With the surveillance we had set up earlier, Ken and I saw Clara start making phone calls when she got home, trying to network. In the previous life, Lily was scouted by a talent agent at 16. This time, despite seeing Ken being praised, Clara got impatient. When she got home, she began networking, eager to have Lily start a child modeling career. From that day on, besides the classes Lily was already taking, Clara hired a private tutor to come home and teach Lily how to pose. When they got their first gig, Clara took a leave from school to accompany Lily to another city for a photo shoot. In the scorching summer heat, she held an umbrella and a fan, while making Lily change into a dozen outfits under the blazing sun. When they returned to the hotel in the evening, Lily's arms were sunburned. Clara excitedly applied sunburn ointment on her. Lily, pursue modeling earnestly. Do more shoots, and when you make it big, you'll earn heaps of money. Lily looked at her. But Mom, we're not short on money. Clara just saw Lily as a naive child, boldly expressing her ambition. You're young. You don't get it. We aren't short on money, but I've always been overshadowed by Becky. Her family was better off than mine from the start. I finally outdid her in academics through sheer hard work, but then she took the arts exam route, got into a better university, made better friends, and dated better guys. Most importantly, she pretends to be kind to me, but she's just using me for comparison to set off her grace. Why should I be lesser? Why should her spouse be better? And why should she be able to conceive when I can't? Clara's face twisted with contempt as she spoke, revealing her deep-seated resentment against me. After she finished, she grabbed Lily's hands. Lily, all my hopes rest on you. This time, you must help me win. Though Lily had the soul of an 18-year-old, Clara's distorted expression scared her. It took a while before she nodded timidly. Okay, I understand. Meanwhile, all of these talks were captured by the tiny camera Lily wore, which Ken and I saved. Clara and I went to the same school from kindergarten. I always saw her as my best friend, sharing everything equally with her. I thought we were close like family, but she felt overshadowed by me. From attending the same school, sharing marriages, to adopting from the same orphanage, she felt that every choice she made was a losing bet against me. She believed I naturally had a better family, a better husband, and even the kids I adopted after a miscarriage, allegedly due to her, turned out talented, making her feel I got everything effortlessly. This was why, in the past life, when the Ken she pinned all her hopes on set her house on fire, she stabbed me out of spite. In this life, she thinks taking Lily away is the right choice. She believes this way she can beat me. And just thinking about it, it's really laughable. Clara's impatience for quick success leads her to network extensively, securing Lily a child modeling job to make quick cash. After that, she becomes increasingly obsessed, continually pushing Lily into studios. She opened a social media account under Lily's name, showcasing the so-called cute kid parent daily life. Hiring some college students to plan, they break their minds daily to film these so-called cute kid moments. If one take isn't perfect, they do it twice, 3 times, tirelessly shooting until they get it right. Lily's time at school becomes less and less. Eventually, Clara even asked for a month off, explaining she's taking Lily to collaborate with internet celebs in other cities, then join some child model contests. Lily's contact with us decreased, and there was a period when she basically lived under Clara's monitoring. A girl from Clara's team subtly suggested, Lily is still a young girl. Showcasing her entirely on camera isn't too appropriate, and there are guys in our team. Clara replied dismissively, she's only 6. It's no big deal. Anyway, making money is what matters. Getting seen doesn't lose a pound. As long as Lily can earn money, Clara's attitude softens. Even if Lily occasionally stayed in bed late, Clara wouldn't scold her as harshly. Every day she looked at the money pouring in from Lily. Her smile almost reached her back of her head. I'm her imaginary rival. She made some money, so she naturally showed up to flaunt it in front of me. That day, after elementary school let out, I was walking out with Ken. Suddenly, a pricey car screeched to a stop right in front of us. The window rolled down, revealing Clara's smug face. I rolled my eyes internally and tried to walk away with Ken, but Clara stepped out of the car. All smug, she announced, aren't you going to take a look at my new car? After all, in our past lives, all of Lily's earnings went to you. I had to admire her nerve for saying that in front of Ken, even though she only saw him as a 6-year-old. But she's well aware of how smart Ken is. Really, she's both mean and dumb. I glanced at the car, gave a simple "oh," and smiled, saying, so, did you buy the car just to show it off to me? She said, here to show you what's what. Last time, you raised Lily till 16 before she earned anything. This time, she's only 6, and I've already mapped her life out to make all the money she missed last time. Becky, you have to admit I'm better than you. I looked at her face. In our past lives, until the end, I thought of her as a best friend. Never realized when she started hating me so much, seeing me as competition. Clara, I said, you've done everything to beat me. But did you ever think that I never wanted to compete? She was taken aback. I continued, so you think because 6-year-old Lily is making money, you've won? Do you think I didn't know Lily could earn? It's not that. I respect every choice Lily makes, same with Ken. My approach is do what you want. But for you, whether it's Ken or Lily, your approach is you must become who I need. Clara, I feel sorry for you. She stared at me for a long time, then burst out laughing. Becky, what a joke. You think your way of raising kids is right? Kids are like wild trees. Parents need to prune the wild branches for them to succeed. No matter what, this time around, I'm the winner. It ended on a bitter note. Clara drove off in her 6-figure car. Lily's schedule is packed these days, seriously lacking rest. When she occasionally attends class, she's yawning. Clara left to discuss business, so Lily got a chance to rest. After Lily woke up, Clara wasn't back yet. The housekeeper made dinner for Lily, and after, she sneaked into her room to video call us. Yawning, she looked drained. Rubbing her eyes, she said, I'm only 6, but my schedule's crazier than when I was 16. At this rate, I won't make it. She bought $1 million car on loan. And to pay it off, she signed me up for all these contracts under my name, feeling like she's squeezing every bit out of me. After venting, she glanced at the silent Ken. Ken, I feel you more now. Your last life was rough. Ken smirked a bit, and after some thought, he told Lily, she sees you as a money tree now, and you're giving her the payback she's looking for, so she won't be too hard on you. I recalled Clara's behavior towards Lily from the surveillance footage. Indeed, she wasn't as harsh as she was with Ken last time. In our past lives, Ken started off as planned, excelling at school, shining in kids' tech competitions, and praised as a genius. Slowly, Ken became more withdrawn, refusing to attend competitions. Clara would whip him with a feather duster, forcing him to go. Ken was often covered in bruises, while Lily, maybe because she was too obedient or because shortly after being adopted, brought Clara success. Other than waking her up with icy glares when she lazed in bed, Clara wasn't too overboard. But I believe people like Clara always slip up eventually. We just need to keep waiting for the right time. Meanwhile, Ken, since being adopted by me, has been living almost too leisurely. In our past lives, Clara had planned everything for him. This time, living with me, the alarm goes off for school, he's up, but I'm still buried in covers. Ken bangs on my room door. I remove my eye mask, barely awake. Sorry, Ken, I can't get up. How about I call your teacher and have you skip? First grade lessons, you don't need them. Ken twitched his mouth, seemingly tolerating my laziness. I still have to go, Lily's coming today. I need to see how she's doing. He looked me over, realizing I wouldn't get up. How about you give me $10 to take the bus and grab some breakfast buns? Okay. I reached for my wallet on the nightstand, handing him a bill without looking. Here you go. Ken didn't take it. That's 50. I glanced up, then pushed the money into his hand. Take a cab to school, buy extra buns, some for Lily too. Holding the cash, Ken turned to leave. I suddenly remembered something and called him back. I handed over another 50. Pick me up some starch sausage and turkey noodles after school, and use the rest for internet cafes. Oh no, wait, you're 6, don't go there. Just save it for more starch sausage tomorrow. He paused, not leaving. I shot him a messy-haired, sleepy look. What? Not enough money? Ken took a deep breath, suppressing something. As I drifted back asleep, he shook his head. Nothing, I'm going. Remember to eat lunch. In the evening, when Ken returned with my sausage and noodles, it was then I finally got out of bed in PJs. Ken was super surprised when he saw me with my hair looking like a bird's nest. Did you just wake up? He asked. I yawned and said, can't I? Elementary schools finish around 4 p.m. So I think it's normal for someone in their 20s, like me, to get up around then. Ken set the starch sausage and spicy turkey noodles he bought for me on the table. Then he tiptoed to the fridge, got some milk, and poured us both a glass. I said, I don't drink milk. I don't need to get taller. Ken gave me a look full of concern, like he was silently asking, are you serious? He told me, milk helps with the spiciness. Oh, I said, and sat down at the table, starting to eat my sausage. Ken sat across from me looking around. My husband was at work and hadn't come back yet. This 300-plus square meter apartment felt kinda empty, with just me during the day since the maid didn't live in. Ken looked left then right, seeming unsure. After a while he hesitantly asked, "When Uncle's not home, do you just lay around all day?" Since he started staying with us, Ken always called me Auntie and my husband Uncle. I knew he was cautious, especially after what he went through in his past life. Being guarded was normal, so I didn't force him to change what he called us. I nodded, making a funny face from the spicy noodles, and quickly drank some milk, only to choke on it. Ken reached across the table for napkins and handed me two. As I wiped my face, I noticed Ken wanted to say something. "Ken, do you have something to tell me?" I asked, biting into my sausage. Ken thought for a moment and nodded. I reluctantly put my sausage down, licked my lips, and looked at Ken with his serious little self. I couldn't help but get serious too. "Go on. I'm listening," I said, sitting up straight. "Okay, Auntie," Ken started. "I know you have a good life, look great, are talented, and have a good husband. But I think as an adult and a woman, you should have a job." He spoke hesitantly, unsure if he should say this. I motioned for him to continue. Encouraged, his tone grew more certain. "In my last life, I was adopted by a woman named Clara. Her life was basically a copy of yours, same school, same major, married right after graduation, adopting kids from the orphanage. But do you know what made her finally snap? What was it? Her husband cheated on her. Her pride, a husband she thought was as great as yours, cheated because she couldn't have kids. He found a young pretty girl. If she had a kid, he would have divorced Clara. But for some reason, after a couple of fights, that girl was never mentioned again. I think Clara put all her hopes on others, first her family, then her husband, finally on herself, leading to failure. Clara failed because she depended on others too much. You should have your own career, Auntie. I'm not saying Uncle is bad, but you are you. You are independent. I want you to always be beautiful, bright, and full of life. To keep all that, you gotta work for it." I rested my chin on my hand and said, "That's definitely something to think about." Seeing I agreed with him, Ken seemed ready to make a big decision, and continued, "Auntie, there's one more thing. I'm sorry I didn't tell you in my last life." My eyes shifted. "What is it?" Ken got off his chair, walked to me, bowed, and said, "In my past life, shortly after I was adopted, I found out Clara drugged you, causing your miscarriage. But since you still saw her as a best friend, I felt like, as a kid, you wouldn't believe me." He looked at me for a long time, then bowed again. "I'm really sorry, Auntie." I lifted him up, this 6-year-old with a small body. It didn't take much effort to seat him beside me. I patted his head, meeting his eyes. "Ken, let me answer you one thing at a time. First, about my career. I'm glad you, as a boy, can think about me. Don't worry, I have a job. I won't become someone's accessory like Clara did, and lose my self-worth. I own my own studio, but many have prejudices against me. Thinking I rely on my family's wealth, and my husband's support, they underestimate it. Actually, in my last life, when Lily became a new star in the entertainment world, her agency was 100% owned by me. And about Clara drugging me, as I reflect on it, if you'd told me back then, as a child of 6 or 7, I probably wouldn't believe it. In my last life, I considered Clara a very dear friend. Plus, back then as a kid, you couldn't help it. The event happened, and you couldn't stop what was going to happen." Seeing my acceptance, Ken, usually so stoic, showed a hint of emotion in his eyes. "Auntie will be here soon. I asked her to buy ribs, so she can make sweet and sour ribs, your favorite." Ken looked surprised. Clara once complained to me in my past life that Ken seemed like an emotionless robot, with no favorite food or hobby. But just by observing him closely, knowing what he likes isn't that hard. For instance, since adopting him, even though he always cleans his plate at the table, he eats more slowly whenever there are sweet and sour ribs. I think that's because he's savoring something delicious. I picked up the starch sausage again. I might not get calculus, but I know what you and Lily like. Talking about Ken, I've actually got a question. It's about Clara's husband cheating. In the past, I never heard a peep about it. Makes sense though. She saw me as a rival, and wouldn't want me knowing things weren't perfect with her. To her, it was a shameful secret. Almost like if I found out, it was a win for me. Being back, I can't be bothered to dig up her messy affairs. But I am curious about one thing. Why did that girl her husband cheated with, who was supposedly serious enough for him to leave Clara, if she had his kid, disappear after a few blowout fights? That just makes you think. Life's pretty chill on elementary school weekends. Ken's in his room with calculus, and I'm in the living room watching Korean dramas. The heat outside is unbearable. My phone buzzes with a heatwave alert, and I think, man, working in this weather would be brutal. Right after I thought that, Ken ran out from his room. Lily's fainted from heat exhaustion. That damn Clara. By the time we reached the hospital, Clara was already dealing with reporters. Poor little 6-year-old Lily had been out in the 102-degree scorching sun for hours, shooting photos. She was already feeling faint and had gone to Clara, saying she felt unwell and needed a break. But Clara wouldn't have it. Lily had to go back under the sun while everyone else, including the photographers, wore protective clothing or stood under umbrellas. Lily, completely exposed, succumbed to the heat and fainted. And what did Clara do when Lily fainted? First thing, she stripped off that fancy outfit Lily was wearing, worrying more about ruining it than the kid. Someone caught this all on video and posted it online. It blew up within hours. Of course, Lily being a minor celebrity helped it hit the trending list. Reporters rushed in, and Clara was left handling them while Lily was alone in her room. Perfect chance for me and Ken to sneak in. Little Lily lay on the hospital bed, pale as a ghost. I always treasured Lily, never raising my voice at her. Last time around, she was thriving in the entertainment biz. But if she ever said she didn't like dealing with reporters, I'd always say, if you don't like it, let's step back. It's not like we need the money. A kid is a mom's most tender spot, especially seeing them suffer like that. As soon as I saw Lily, I burst into tears. I held her tiny hand, my tears dropping onto her knuckles. Lily woke up, saw me, and cried too. Mom, I'm here, sweetheart. Oh, how my heart aches. Clara will pay for this, mark my words. Lily's little face was flushed, and she wrinkled her nose. She looked so pitiful. She cried, wanting me to hold her. Mom, take me home. I miss you. I miss being with you and Dad. As much as it tore me up, I knew it wasn't the right time to take Lily away yet. After comforting her, I left with Ken. But just my luck, we bumped into Clara at the elevator. Seeing her immediately made me roll my eyes, and I steered Ken the other way. Didn't expect Clara to latch on. She caught up and grabbed my wrist. Becky, what are you doing here? The place was quiet, and I wasn't in the mood to play games. I shook off her hand. Why do you think I'm here? Some people adopt a kid and treat her like a cash cow. I'm here to see my kid. Clara's face twisted with disdain. Your kid? Are you dreaming, Becky? Lily's mine. That she's making money and has fans. You're just jealous. Think she'll choose you, her real mom? I wasn't in the mood to argue. I pulled Ken along to leave, but she blocked me again. Becky, let it go. Lily will only ever be mine. Your kid. Just a freak. Wait until he drains the life out of you, and you die in flames. I had no intention of causing a scene. Lily's situation, I'd deal with it later. But now she'd tick me off on two fronts. Before she could spew more, I swung my purse and clobbered Clara on the head with it. I'd come prepared, picked my priciest bag, and loaded it with a hefty power bank. That smack guaranteed she'd see stars. I wasn't sticking around, so after the hit, I grabbed Ken and bolted. Clara was floored, and by the time she cried for security, we were mixed into the crowd down the next floor. Gasping for breath and hugging Ken, I finally stopped a floor down. Ken was in awe. Auntie, who knew you could run like that? Clutching a pole for support, I panted hard. Back in college, I was on the track team. Clara always tried to one-up me. I signed up for track, 'cause she said she would. I took first in women's while she fainted halfway. It was me who had to carry her to the hospital then. Sucks, huh? Should have dumped her in the campus pond, drowned her then. The internet went wild with the video of Lily fainting, but the buzz quickly died down. Clara posted a video, all tears with red, puffy eyes, groveling for forgiveness on camera. Between sobs, she said sorry for hogging the spotlight. About my daughter, let me tell you a story. The video is long. It's about how, as a kid, she had a talent for the arts. Her teachers at school thought she was gifted, and suggested that she join classes to nurture this talent. Excited, she went home and told her parents, but they said no, claiming they couldn't afford it. The next day, her mom signed her brother up for a year of piano lessons. It turned out it wasn't about having no money. It was about not spending it on her. So from a young age, she realized girls are at a disadvantage in the world. Towards the end of the video, she tearfully says, "I know better than anyone how tough it is for girls. I adopted Lily from an orphanage. Most people I know who adopt choose boys, but I chose Lily. I didn't want her to end up like me, so I do everything I can for her. I enroll her in expensive classes, and when she's filming under the scorching sun, I'm right there with her. Maybe I want her to succeed too much, and I see my mistakes. I hope everyone looks out for me, and that I can correct my wrongs." She often mentions the struggles women face, striking a chord with many, and many viewers left comments. "Oh my gosh, a single piano lesson costs hundreds. I would have been so grateful if my mom spent that on me as a kid. All parents want their kids to succeed. Lily's mom is just doing her best. Yeah, it's hard for girls. And if she hadn't adopted Lily, Lily would still be in the orphanage. As outsiders, we have no right to judge." With all the buzz, instead of losing followers, Lily's account gained millions. Someone remarked, "The higher she climbs now, the harder she'll fall later." Meanwhile, Clara, known for her strict persona, exploded at Lily after she brought her home. She threw Lily's backpack on the ground and screamed at her, saying, "Do you know how much I spent to suppress that trending topic? It's just the sun. I've not starved or deprived you, and yet you faint so easily. The workers are under the sun daily and they're fine. You must be doing this on purpose." In anger, Clara pushed Lily and accused her, "You don't want to work, do you? You think I spend money on you to teach you things? No. I do it so you can earn for me. Everything you have now, you'll repay 100-fold. Lily, already fragile with red and swollen arms from an injection, couldn't hold her glare at Clara. That stare triggered Clara even more. "Why are you looking at me like that?" Clara shouted, grabbing Lily. "No matter your past, I underestimated you. Don't you dare look at me like that again. Don't you dare." Lily teared up, trying to push away. "You're hurting me. Let go." But the more she struggled, the tighter Clara held. Until Clara, out of rage, slapped Lily so hard she fell again. Not satisfied, Clara took a feather duster to Lily. "Why won't you listen and follow the path I set? I brought you from that orphanage to earn for me, not to enjoy life. Don't even think about talking to Becky." After the beating, Lily had bruises all over. Once Clara calmed down, she sobbed alongside Lily, "You have to help me. Make us successful and earn lots in the future, all right?" With her injuries, Lily couldn't shoot videos. Clara announced a break, saying she needed time off to rest. Lily was absent a lot, so her school demanded she return or face expulsion. Clara, wary of stirring more trouble, sent Lily back to school anyway. Despite the heat, Lily wore long sleeves and pants to hide her bruises. Ken and I watched the beating from security footage, and Ken held me back from rushing over. I snuck into school under the guise of bringing Ken something. My husband's partnership with the school gave me access to an office where I could meet Ken discreetly. A teacher showed me in and left. Soon Ken arrived with Lily following. I hugged Lily tight, feeling my heart ache for her injuries. As I applied medication teary-eyed, I assured her, "Trust me soon, we'll take you home." Lily replied maturely, "Mom, it's okay. I'm tough." Once treated, I handed Lily a packet. "This is a laxative. Slip it in Clara's drinks. I can't just let this go." Ken produced another packet. "This will boost her male hormones, make her break out with acne and facial hair." I shared a glance with him. Perfect, we were on the same page. That night, Lily slipped the substances into Clara's drinks and watched her suffer the side effects. Nearly a month passed, Clara's skin broke out. She was frantic, spending loads on treatments. Driven by money, she soon had Lily back to work, not allowing much rest. So she showed up in front of the camera with that face, and fans in the comments section were all asking what happened. She shamelessly replied, "I've been taking care of Lily, and haven't slept well for half the month, so my skin got worse." A week later, she jumped on an opportunity to snag an ad deal. She went on live to sell a skincare set worth $998, claiming that it's what cleared up her pimples in a week. But in reality, the pimples were still there, just covered up with filters and heavy foundation. And that $998 set? She managed to sell 20,000 units in one night, making a killing. After tasting success, her control over Lily became even more stifling. On Lily's first shoot after a break, while she was doing her makeup in the dressing room, Clara tidied her clothes and whispered, "If your face can't be a moneymaker, I'll donate your eyes to someone who needs them." Lily tried to resist, but Clara forcibly turned her back. "Don't think about collapsing to slack off this time. I adopted you from the orphanage, not so you could laze around. If you don't put in effort, I might as well have adopted a boy who'd at least have some promise." After making money from Lily and the live streams, Clara moved from her old house into a large flat, just like mine. On her first day in the new place, Clara not only posted on her social media, but tagged me in our college class group. "Hey Becky, doesn't my new place look as big as your marital home?" She also shared a video giving a full view of the house. A classmate who likes to chime in saw it and replied, thinking we were close, "You two are so tight buying identical houses. But couldn't you have shared this privately? Was it to show off?" Another jumped in, "Looks different from Becky's house though. Isn't hers an estate XX, and Clara's by the peninsula? Clara's seems bigger." Clara replied in the group, "Yep, mine is 50 square feet bigger than Becky's. Some sense something was off. Wait, aren't you too close? Why not message her directly?" Clara sent a voice note. "Maybe everyone misunderstood. We're not that tight. When Becky married, she flaunted her new place. I just wanted to show her that I can buy a big place too." Tension in the group was palpable. Everyone came to watch. By the time I picked up my phone, our usually quiet class group had hundreds of messages. After skimming through, I posted a video of Ken casually chatting with top-notch AI professors from a leading tech university in China. "Oh, why so many messages? Sorry, I've been too busy introducing Ken to tech professors to check. Knowing Clara for so long, I know how to push her buttons. Ken is indeed exceptionally gifted. Even without being reincarnated, he's a 1 in a million genius, let alone reincarnated, having an 18-year-old soul in a 6-year-old's body. When I got bored playing video games alone, Ken thought they were too childish and developed a little program for me to play. I emailed this program to a tech university professor and soon received a reply, expressing deep interest in meeting Ken. Ken didn't disappoint. After a brief chat, the professor was thoroughly impressed, offering Ken a spot in the university's Genius Youth program. Some recognized the professor in the group and were amazed. "Wow, I saw this professor in the news. Becky, the professor picked your kid." I casually replied, "Yep, my son's little program impressed this professor, who insisted Ken join their genius class. But honestly, he's just 6 years old. I prefer him to stay by my side." My words drew everyone's attention, and Clara's flaunting of her large flat seemed trivial compared to a 6-year-old joining a genius program. Especially since if Ken joins, he'd be the youngest in the class. Clara, unable to stomach being upstaged, spoke up amid the praises. "Book smarts can be pointless. Many geniuses end up as nobodies contributing nothing to society." The long silent class president chimed in. "Clara, it's not fair to put it that way. This professor's students are pillars of the nation, contributing greatly to society. Just because you became a social media star with your daughter, doesn't mean you should look down on scientists who made it possible for you to profit. Without them, would you have the chance to earn?" Another classmate added, "Yeah, without software developers, social media stars couldn't even post videos." Clara aimed to flaunt her big new place, but found herself outdone yet again. Checking my home security later, I saw Clara, after turning her phone off, start throwing things madly. Sure enough, despite moving, Lily brought along the music box and doll with a camera, so every move was under my watch. Ken going to the genius class was a done deal. I signed the contract with the professor. Once this school term ends, Ken will start in the tech university's kids program. So I made a pact with Ken that before he heads to the tech university, we'd get Lily away from Clara's clutches. But I didn't expect Clara to stir up more trouble so soon after. Seeing Ken chosen for the tech university, Clara couldn't bear being outshone for even a moment. So they started dragging Lily out to make money again. But the downside of signing contracts like crazy was inconsistent work quality. One children's clothing company boss even acted inappropriately towards Lily. Initially, he would just ask Lily for hugs and kisses in front of others. Later, he'd call her to his office alone under the guise of taking measurements. This time, the boss called Lily into the office and sent everyone else away. When I got the tip off and rushed over with backup, he was pinning Lily down on the sofa trying to kiss her. I had hired 3 or 4 bouncers, and at my signal, they lifted the boss while I comforted Lily in my arms. Even though Lily has the soul of an 18-year-old, she'd still get weak-kneed if faced with a creep. I called the cops. People in the company had already suspected the boss of being a creep, so a female leader secretly installed a camera in the office. They caught everything on tape. With solid evidence, the police arrested the clothing company boss on the spot. It wasn't long after Lily fainted during a shoot, and now this harassment scandal put her back in the spotlight. While Lily was being harassed, Clara was getting a facial at a beauty salon. She rushed to the hospital right after the police call, still with her post-treatment look. The police station was bustling, and there were a few leaders from the clothing company. Clara had to put on a full act, rushing in and snatching Lily from my arms, trying to look all worried. Lily, oh my, how could this happen just when I stepped away? Clara's no fool. Otherwise, she wouldn't have managed to hide things so well in her last life. She quickly turned the tables, pointing at me in front of everyone. Becky, didn't you say you'd take care of Lily, so I could go to the hospital without worry? How could this happen under your watch? With just one sentence, she cleared her name and shifted the blame onto me. Though she acted all anxious, she couldn't squeeze out a tear. If she could cry on demand, she'd probably be earning money as an actress. Too bad she lacked that talent. I had 4 bouncers behind me, who were sitting elsewhere earlier. Seeing the tension between me and Clara, they gathered around. Clara got a bit intimidated seeing them. What are you gonna do? I wasn't wrong. You were there when it happened. So how did this happen to Lily? I pulled out the freshly printed news articles detailing the boss's past offenses. Years ago, he had a record of child harassment, but the victim's family lacked the clout to press charges. It took just a bit of digging online to find some clues. But Clara, in her quest for cash, didn't do any background checks. I tossed the contract in her face. It was you who signed the contract. You didn't do the background check. You were off at the hospital when Lily got into trouble. Cover up your cosmetic work before you start pointing fingers, Clara. Many people were drawn to our argument and crowded around. Among them was the female leader who installed the camera, which helped put the scumbag behind bars. Actually, after the earlier incident, we had fewer child models willing to work with us. Most do background checks, and without the funds, we had to offer more money to attract irresponsible parents, she said, eyeing Clara. From what I know, you approved our partnership in under 10 minutes. Didn't even check the background or the collaboration file. Many eyes turned to Clara, who was holding Lily, with a visible shift in her expression. Stubbornly, she refused to admit her mistakes, even snapping at the female leader. As a company leader, how could you still be hiring child models with these issues? You found me through a legitimate platform. If you passed their checks, why couldn't I pick you? If there's blame to be placed, I'll fault the platform for sloppy checks and accuse you of wrongdoing. The female leader had her own struggles. Not being the top boss, she'd probably been under pressure all along. Secretly installing the camera was what brought the predator down. While she was at fault, I sure wasn't. With bouncers by my side, I'm right. Swinging my bag, I said, "Shut up, Clara. Don't think I don't see through you. To make money, you'd do anything. Remember, I won't let this slide. I've talked to the police about how you've put Lily in harm's way. Prepare for questioning." I had the same bag I'd used to whack Clara before, and seeing me raise it made her flinch. I turned to leave, but seeing Clara staring dumbly at me, I couldn't resist grabbing her by the collar. "Still looking? I'll deal with you one way or another." Because of this fiasco, Lily got a nice break. Clara's team had a female student director, one of her college juniors, who, worrying about Lily, suggested Clara get a counselor for her. With an 18-year-old soul inside her, Lily didn't crumble that easily. Last lifetime, I taught her that dignity isn't what's under a girl's skirt. But she acted traumatized anyway, spending time napping in the counselor's office, waking up and pretending to cry about nightmares. The harassment case got some online buzz, but quickly got overshadowed by a celebrity romance reveal. It's a shame though. Clara never knows when to stop. Not long after the scandal, she released a video. She talked about being harassed by an uncle as a child, implying every girl experienced such things when young. It totally skewed the narrative. At the end of the video, she's holding Lily close, her eyes red and swollen. She looks like a mom who's overworked with worry for her daughter. To hit folks right in the feels, she gets Lily to say to the camera, "When facing harassment, you gotta remember it's not your fault. It's the bad people who are wrong." Just like that, everyone's attention shifts. They forget Clara ignored a background check and put her daughter in harm's way. Instead, folks admire Lily's mom for teaching her to stand up against harassment. Overnight, the video racks up over 1 million likes. An industry director even comments, saying there's a movie about a young girl who faces harassment, and he wants Lily to play the lead character when she was a child. It's a big opportunity, just like in the past. Clara won't let this chance slip by. Soon enough, she announces on her account that Lily will be in the movie. The night the director announces Lily's role, Clara calls me, feeling pretty smug. "Becky, see? I'm winning. I'm busy trying to make steamed egg for Ken. I always mess it up, so Ken does it himself and nails it. I'm waiting for his eggs when Clara runs her mouth." I just laugh. "Clara, remember what I said back at the police station? What was that? Don't get too cocky, I'll make you pay. Karma's coming for you." And that's me. At the movie press conference, I go with Ken. We blend in, watching the crew get interviewed. To boost hype, the event's live streamed on official accounts, and each stream has over 10,000 viewers. The movie's leads are top-tier celebs. Their fans flood the streams once they appear, and the buzz is insane. I know the leads from the past. By the time Lily turns 18, the female lead's marketing deals are insane, while the male lead ends up in jail for dating minors. His speeches on women's safety now make me want to throw my bag at him. Lily's entry is later since she's the child version of the lead. Early on, I spot Clara in the audience not far from me. I ball up a napkin and toss it at her head. "Oi, Clara." She spins around mad. "What are you doing here? This isn't your place." I wink at her. "Told you. I'm here to see you fall." She tries to ignore me, turning to staff to kick me out. "That woman, Becky, she's trouble. Can you boot her?" The staff checks their list, looks at me, and apologizes to Clara. "Sorry, ma'am. She's an investor. We can't remove her." Clara turns green. I'm not gonna blow my second chance just stealing kids. I remember the business is set to boom in 13 years. I found their founders and invested. So 13 years later, I'll be making bank in my sleep. Some startups are already paying off. I don't even need family money. I'm feeling smug, surprised. I'm the boss now. Clara's fuming, but she's stuck. Just then, Lily's name gets called. On stage, Lily's in a pretty dress, mic in hand, introducing herself. "Hi, I'm Lily. I play the young lead." Reporters swarm, throwing questions her way. Being a known face thanks to my past life, Lily handles these easily. But one reporter asks, "Lily, do you like acting?" Lily freezes, looking nervously at Clara in the crowd. Dead air fills the room, whispers start. Then Lily beams, "Yeah, I love it." "Why?" The reporter presses. "Acting makes good money," Lily replies sweetly. "Mom adopted me from the orphanage for money. She said I'd be a child star to help support a sibling." A stunned silence breaks into chaos. All eyes are now on Clara, and the live chats go wild. Dang, turning a kid into a cash cow. Could this influencer family finally be exposed? I always thought they were sketchy. Passed out at work, possibly assaulted, and now rushed into shows. Definitely using the kid as a money tree. It's satisfying seeing everyone spot someone I've disliked for so long. Clara, shocked, scrambles for the mic. "Lily, what are you saying? That's not true. Folks, don't get it twisted. I can't have kids, so I adopted." "Haha, Lily's just joking." Seeing disbelief in the crowd, she offers, "Check my medical records if you don't buy it." Can't fake those. But reporters sense a juicy story. No way they're letting this pass. Clara, does Lily truly love acting? She's had some bad press. Why are you pushing her? Is it true you see her as a money-making machine? That you skipped background checks, which led to Lily's harassment by a known offender? The reporters were firing questions one right after another, and Clara was struggling to keep up. I figured it was time to strike. Crossing my legs, I turned to Ken and said, "Ken, let's roll out the main event." Ken nodded, pulled out his laptop, and started working his magic. About 30 seconds later, various videos of Clara and Lily started playing on the big screen at the press conference. There was a video of Clara throwing cold water on Lily's bed at 5 in the morning, when she couldn't get up for ballet practice. Another showed Lily coming home with heatstroke, only to be whipped with a feather duster by Clara, who said, "I adopted you so you could make money." Then there was Lily sitting at a vanity, with Clara telling her, "If your face doesn't become a money maker, I should have just adopted a boy from the orphanage." Videos like these, showcasing the things Clara had said and done to Lily at home and work, started streaming one by one. Clara went ballistic when she saw this and tried to smash the big screen, but the staff stopped her. Those screens are worth a lot after all. I sat back and smirked. If she's losing it now, just wait for what's next. Ken tapped his keyboard, and the screen switched to display Clara's infertility medical record, soon followed by another for an IVF procedure. The next video showed Clara and her husband at home. In the video, Clara said, "Honey, I've arranged the IVF at a hospital. It's $500,000. Lily's recent ad earnings are just enough." Her husband frowned and asked, "But isn't it unfair to use Lily's money for our IVF?" Clara's face turned stern. "What's wrong with it? If I hadn't adopted her, she'd still be in the orphanage. Helping her brother be born is an honor." More videos continued to parade across the screen, drawing the highest traffic to the live stream with comments flying in. What came next was even more shocking. 2 videos. The first showed Clara and her husband drunk, chatting in their living room. In it, Clara said, "Do you know why Becky can't have kids just like me?" Her husband shook his head. She laughed hysterically. "It's because of me. 3 months before her miscarriage, I secretly added drugs to her vitamins. Not only did she miscarry, but now she's just like me, infertile forever. Why should I be the only one unable to have kids? Becky should be like me." The second video captured Clara and her husband returning home pale-faced. Her husband panicked, shouted, "Clara, you killed someone. How could you do that? What did that girl ever do to you?" Clara's face was twisted with rage. "It's all your fault. You had an affair and promised to divorce me once she had the child. I killed her. Now let's see how you two get married." Right as everyone was processing this, police officers walked into the conference. The officer held up an arrest warrant. "Clara, we have a report connecting you to a homicide. We need you to come with us for investigation. You have the right to remain silent, but anything you say can and will be used against you in court." Just then, the orphanage's director came in with more police. The director stood next to Lily. "Clara, based on the evidence, you've been abusing Lily since you adopted her. We have a medical report confirming the abuse. Under the Domestic Violence Act, we're issuing a protection order to separate you from Lily and revoke your adoption rights." That medical abuse report? After the last time Lily was beaten, I took her to the hospital to prepare for this moment. So I got up too. Becky here, and I'm charging Clara with tampering with my meds, causing my miscarriage and infertility. Clara snapped out of her daze, was charged with multiple crimes. As she was escorted out, she went berserk. "No, Becky, you won't take me down. I'm the winner." The police weren't expecting her outburst. They lost grip, and Clara lunged at me, aiming for my throat. People shrieked and scattered. I stood still, waiting until the last second before raising my stun baton, hitting her right in the gut. Clara collapsed, trembling. The officers dashed to cuff her. Trembling hands, she reached for my ankle. I kicked her hand away coldly. "Clara, I told you, what goes around comes around." With so many charges, Clara was thrown into jail, and her husband, as an accomplice, fell under close watch. The victim's family was also gathering evidence, determined to ensure Clara and her husband faced the harshest punishment. I knew about that poor girl when Ken first mentioned her. I hired a PI to save her but was too late. When I found clues, she had already been brutally dumped. I handed over all my findings to the police. Lily was taken back to the orphanage by the director. I went ahead and filed paperwork to re-adopt Lily. Seeing Ken's transformation and Lily's agreement, the adoption went smoothly. The day I brought Lily home, it rained. The director and I were in the office drinking coffee, while Lily and Ken were sketching in the nearby gazebo. The dean chuckled and said, "Ken's changed a lot. He used to not talk much, hardly ever smiled. Just a little kid with not much life in him. But today, he frowned because the other kids didn't clean up their trash." I felt a bit guilty. Maybe it's because I leave things messy at home, and Ken always helps clean up. Maybe he just couldn't stand it. The dean paused and then laughed heartily. Maybe that's just the right way to educate him. He's smart. He doesn't need us to teach him a lot. We just need to teach him how to live with emotions. I looked at Ken from a distance. I think as long as he's happy, it's all good. Anyway, in this second chance at life, I plan to become a tycoon. Even if Lily and Ken aren't much in their lives, I can support them till they grow old. Even after I'm gone, I can set up a trust fund, so they can live freely. After the rain, a rare rainbow appeared in the sky. I held Lily and Ken's hands as we said goodbye to the dean. "Lily, Ken, let's go home." Before summer was over, Clara was sentenced. Multiple charges, death penalty, execution before winter. Her husband also faced several years of prison. Before her execution, I visited Clara in prison. Through the thick glass, I saw her with a shaved head looking worn out. I almost didn't recognize her. Clara was the first to smile. "Becky, you must be pleased. You won again. Seeing me like this, are you satisfied?" I sighed, didn't answer her directly, but instead asked Clara, "How many years have we known each other?" She paused, didn't reply. I didn't expect her to answer. 22 years. When we first met, we were even younger than Lily and Ken. In kindergarten, a boy took my lollipop, and I was about to cry in a corner. You saw it. Walked right up and twisted that boy's ear to get it back for me. When you handed it back to me, I thought, this girl is so cool. I want to be her friend. We became friends, moving through the same kindergarten, elementary, middle, high school, and even college. I thought we'd be best friends for life. Even after my miscarriage, when I found out I couldn't have kids, the first person I thought of in my sadness was you. I felt like if I was like you, then it wouldn't be so bad. Clara scoffed, "Becky, I'm about to die, and you're still pretending. You've always been better than me. Everyone always compared me to you, calling you the rose and me the leaves. Why should I be the leaves all my life? I just wanted to win once, just wanted to prove I'm better than you. What's wrong with that?" Honestly, I analyzed Clara's actions. From her perspective, she felt overshadowed by me. We were like twins running at the same pace, but while one was shining, the other felt gloomy. I thought we moved in step as friends who shared everything. But from her perspective, it was like a patriarchal society cut us out as twin images, creating jealousy. Why, in the same environment, could I make it when she couldn't? So she started to hate me. Clara. I called her, and then pulled out 2 contracts from my bag. You never knew this in the last life, or this one either. When I got married, I used my dowry and earnings to make 2 savings, thinking we'd take them out at 40 and travel the world together. It was on my way to get this money that you stabbed me to death. I pressed the contracts against the glass, letting her see them clearly. Her eyes flickered, full of disbelief. "I know you don't believe it, but I must say this, you've always tried to beat me, but I never saw you as a competitor. How did we end up here?" I opened my hand, revealing a hairpin. "Remember this?" Clara's mouth twitched, and she whispered, "How is it still with you?" I smiled, somewhat relieved. "In sophomore year, you went with me to my grandma's house without telling your parents, and you got a beating. Your hairpin broke. My fingers bumped over the cracks in it. You said a boy you liked gave it to you, but then he moved abroad. You tossed it in the trash, saying your first love was over. I secretly picked it up and stayed up 3 nights repairing it. Do you remember telling me when we were teens that when I have a baby, you'd be the coolest godmother? You know, the night you spiked my vitamins causing my miscarriage, my husband wasn't home. I fell and knocked over the jewelry box, and this hairpin fell out. Holding it, I wished you were there. As the godmother, you wouldn't have let anything happen. I'm not expecting an apology from her. I just wanted to tell her these things on this visit. After saying it all, I took a deep breath, turned to leave, but heard her voice at the door. Becky. I turned back. Behind the glass, Clara was shaking with sobs. I'm sorry, she said. I smiled. I won't forgive you. Die with that guilt. Even in death, stay out of my dreams. Clara, being the untrustworthy person she was, still appeared in my dreams. Spring had just arrived when Ken got into the youth program at a tech university. Lily started entering children's singing contests once we settled things. One afternoon, I dozed off reading and dreamed of 17-year-old Clara. On the school track, she came running with a bunch of pink flowers, petals flying as she moved. The sun lit up her lively smile. Becky, Becky. The gardener pruned the school's flowering willow. I got this bunch from him, thinking the color suits you perfectly. I stood there and asked Clara, did you hate me even back then? 17-year-old Clara tilted her head. What are you talking about? We're best friends for life. How could I hate you? I jolted awake from a dream, feeling a coolness on my cheek. When I touched it, I realized my face was wet with tears. I live in a high rise, but somehow, some little pink petals had drifted in. Upon closer look, oh, they were petals from Chinese fringe trees. Clara, I will never forgive you at 27 or 40. But I can't bring myself to hate 17-year-old Clara. 17-year-old Clara. I hope you're in a world as beautiful and full of flowers as this one. The end. Extra 1. Ken has never called me mom. Even though he spent most of his time in the advanced youth class, I truly believe I fulfilled my duty as a mother. Years after we adopted him, he still calls me auntie and calls my husband uncle. I talked to Lily about it. Lily shrugged. Maybe he has some unresolved issues? I've racked my brain, but I have no idea what those issues are. As kids grow older and I get older, I started to accept it. It's not a big deal if he doesn't call me mom. He's still my child. Lily, just like in her past life, went into the entertainment industry. With her past life experience supporting her, her acting skills became even more refined. She won Best Actress before even turning 18, and kept winning awards left and right. Ken, too, gradually showed his talent in technology or business. In the advanced class, he started learning programming, inventing little gadgets, and even won a Youth Scientific Innovation Award while still in elementary school. At such a young age, he was already making a name for himself in the tech world. Many big companies made offers, but he turned them down to continue his education. My 2 children have never given me any trouble. Once Lily finished her college entrance exams, I started worrying about myself. 40 was a tough age. I was scared that something bad might happen like in my past life. So in my 40th year, my husband and I went on a meditation retreat to the Wutai Mountain Temple that lasted almost half a year. When we got back, I noticed something was off between Lily and Ken. It didn't seem as natural as before. Before I could figure it out, Ken was sent abroad on an exchange program. Midway, Lily also went abroad to visit Ken a few times, but I didn't think much of it. For 4 years, Ken did research abroad and won many tech awards. All in all, my kids were excellent and didn't cause me any worries. Well, that was before they sneaked the household register out. Yes, our household register went missing. Shortly after Ken returned from abroad, I realized it was gone and screamed, "Honey, we've been robbed." My husband, Lily, and Ken all came rushing out. "What's missing?" My husband asked, panic in his voice. "Our household register. It's gone. Call the police, honey, call the police." Lily and Ken exchanged looks. Lily finally spoke up. "Mom, don't call the police. We took it." My husband and I exchanged looks too. "Why would you steal our household register?" In our deep questioning stare, Lily and Ken held hands. Ken spoke first. "Uncle, auntie, if you want to blame someone, blame me. I love Lily, and I want to marry her." Lily stood by him. "Mom, don't blame Ken. Stealing the register was my idea. If you want to hit someone, hit me." It took me a while to process that. I pointed at Lily, "You," then at Ken, "and you. Both of you." I was about to faint from anger. "I'm the biggest joke in City A. You kept this from me for over 20 years. No, counting the past life, it's nearly 30 years. Years later, at Lily and Ken's wedding, Ken called me mom for the first time. I laughed, angered. So this was your issue all along, huh? You were waiting for this. I'm mad now. Extra 2, Lily's perspective. I first met Ken when I was just 4 years old. My parents had died in a car accident, and I ended up in an orphanage. It was an unfamiliar place, so I couldn't eat or sleep and cried constantly. Ken, who was sent to the orphanage at the same time, was different. He wouldn't eat or sleep either, but he didn't cry, nor did he speak. The director said it was actually a good thing that I was able to cry. Ken, on the other hand, not being able to cry was bad. I spent 2 years in the orphanage. On the same day, both Ken and I were adopted. The women who adopted us were friends. On the day we left, the director said, "You two have a connection. Take care of each other." But Ken wasn't easy to get along with. He was in a new home, but still wouldn't talk or eat. When Mom took me to visit Auntie's house, he hadn't eaten for days, and his arms looked like he'd been beaten. Mom and Auntie would chat in a room, while I saw him refusing to touch his food. I don't know what came over me. I took his bowl and ran, throwing it in the yard. But he still didn't react. At dinner, when he still refused to eat, I grabbed his bowl again and threw it out in the yard. This time, he finally looked up at me, but still didn't say a word. Auntie was frustrated with Ken not eating, so I told her, "I have a plan." Auntie let me stay over that night. The next morning at breakfast, when he still wouldn't eat, I threw his bowl out again. This time he glared at me. By lunch, when I went for his bowl, he held my hand down and snapped, "What is your deal?" Even though he yelled at me, he finally started eating. Ken wasn't well liked. Auntie didn't seem to like him much either. I heard Mom say that he spoke even less now, always shutting himself in his room with the curtains drawn, leaving it all dark. Mom would occasionally take me to Auntie's. Ken was always hiding in his room. I didn't want to bother him, but I remembered what the director said about getting along. So I knocked on his door. "Ken, can you teach me how to solve a Rubik's Cube?" He was ignoring me, so I just walked in by myself and sat with him in the corner. He was playing with his Rubik's Cube under a dim night lamp. I've never messed with a cube before, so I kept twisting it but couldn't solve it. I even managed to twist it hard enough that it made a cracking sound like it was about to break. That's when Ken finally lost it. "You're such an idiot." He snatched the cube from my hands and quickly restored it. I realized Ken wasn't as quiet as he seemed. Every time my mom took me to my aunt's house, I'd go find Ken to hang out. As we grew up, Ken always had top grades at school. But for some reason, as we got older, his grades started slipping. He even turned in blank exam sheets sometimes. Mom said maybe Ken was sick. My aunt was awful and didn't take him to a doctor even if he was sick. We weren't in the same class, but when I was a junior, a boy gave me a love letter. That night, Ken cornered me on the way home. He rifled through my bag, found the letter, tore it to shreds and said, "Lily, no dating. You belong to me." Ken seriously had issues. I couldn't stand him. When I turned 18, a lot of stuff happened. First, Ken failed his college entrance exams and was pressured by my aunt to restudy. Then out of nowhere, he just set my aunt's house on fire. That same day, my aunt stabbed my mom to death. I was at a loss. Ken was dead, Mom was dead and Aunt got arrested. It was just me all alone. I knelt by Ken and Mom's graves for ages. I said I didn't want this ending. I begged the universe for a do-over, wishing I could change everything. There was a heavy rainstorm that day, and I passed out at Mom's gravesite. When I came to, I found myself in an orphanage. I had been reborn, so I dashed off to find Ken. The director was putting porridge in front of him, and he just sat there silently. I went straight up, grabbed his bowl, and tossed it away. Ken looked at me shocked, and I gave him a smack on the head. "Snap out of it. Your big sister is here to rescue you." Turns out he told me he was reborn too. This time around, we were definitely changing things. And we did. By the time I turned 22 and was legally old enough, Ken and I got married with our parents there to witness it. Together, Ken and I set up a nonprofit to help kids in orphanages and children with special needs. My own childhood story inspired more people to care about those in need. A year later, at the Cannes Film Festival, I won Best Actress and Ken, being a celebrated young scientist, walked the red carpet with me. The cameras zoomed in on the wedding bands we wore. In the crowd, my dear mom was smiling through her tears. In this life I had love, a mom and dad. It was the best ending.